This Choircast podcast is brought to you by Winter Moon and Coffee Stain, poems and lyrics by Keith Giles. In this collection, author and poet Keith Giles has gathered some of his best poems and song lyrics into one volume. Written between 1980 and 2024, these poems span a variety of subjects ranging from love and loss to grief and restoration, and everything learned along the way. Winter Moon and Coffee Stain available now on Amazon.
Forget what they told you in Sunday school. God's not mad at you. You don't have to make America great again. And your spirituality doesn't have to look anything like theirs. Welcome to Evangelicalish with Paul and Ashley. We're untangling and unlearning what harms, reclaiming what heals, and searching for a new kind of 21st century spirituality.
All right. Happy Sunday.
Hey, here we are. I'm excited.
I am too. And so is our dog because he's barking in the background. Happy going to church moment for us all on Sunday morning.
Oh my gosh. Happy. Thank God. All I had to do was roll out of bed and put on a t-shirt for this spiritual moment of the week.
Wait, you took a shower, right?
This is true because I had to take a shower, and you know why? I went to an 80s dance party last night at my friend's house, and I danced my ass off, and I came home like a little sweaty ball of frizzy hair. So I did have to shower.
Yeah, I have some evidence of that, by the way.
Okay.
There you are. Amazon comes one day, and I'm like,
Listen,
this
is
I
my
love the
decade.
80s shirt shows up, and I'm like, wait, did I buy this? What?
Yeah. You're never quite sure. Like you're like, one of my parts could have bought this and I didn't know it.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
listen,
but-
I bought one sweatshirt, one sweatshirt, hair scrunchie, and the gloves. Everything else was in my wardrobe. And I thought to myself, like, dressing up in the 80s is far too easy. I was meant to live in that decade.
And one thing you never thought you would hear me say, and you borrowed the earrings from me.
Oh, okay. So this is this was a jaw-dropping moment for the friends at the 80s party. You can't really see it in this picture, but I have on these like big neon yellow hoops.
Yeah.
And I'm finishing my look last night and I'm like, damn, I need some earrings. And I'm thinking, I have nothing but very plain, simple, like silver hoops, gold hoops, that's it. I have no other jewelry. And so I was like, who
Who
does
do you
have a
know
lot of
who has
jewelry?
really gauche, outlandish?
Really big plastic earrings, my spouse Paul. So I'm like, hey, I think I need to borrow some, which is funny because when you did that interview with the local channel 47 guy,
Yeah.
the guy was like, do you ever borrow her jewelry? And you're like, haha, no. And then I was like, but I borrow Paul's last night. And there we are. It completed the look. So I told my friends last night, oh yeah, these are Paul's earrings. And they were just like, your life is so weird.
Did you do the Thriller dance?
Well, we didn't get to Thriller, but do you know what we did do was the bird.
I love the bird.
I love the bird. And then we were trying to remember what the bird was. And then we're like, we think we're doing the Thriller dance. I'm like, no, we're gonna say we're doing the bird. It was fun.
They probably all work. Morris Day, whose most famous moment in my book was when he, in the movie Purple Rain, stopped and asked Prince, "How's the family?" Like,
yeah,
brutal line. Yeah, I love that. And so before we get to our amazing guest we have today, we have one other picture to show, and that's and this is from my week. There's me in the Rage Room. I went to a place called Art. Wait, what was it? What's it called? Art of Anger.
Isn't it
Art of Anger, and you just go in there and smash shit, and it's wonderful. And I shouldn't say that. There's actually a whole spiritual process to getting in there and everything, and it was fabulous. Thanks to Melissa who invited me over there.
Well, let's unpack that on the next show, because that alone, I've been wanting to, like, I've been hearing about these kinds of rage rooms, and obviously I see people do this on reality TV all the time. I really want to understand what it's like. So that's let's put a pin in it, because very interesting.
I can tell you, it's just amazing how cathartic smashing shit is. It's really,
Mm,
it's wonderful.
mm.
All right, we have an amazing guest today, which we need to get to. He traveled across the world to get to us today. 7-hour flight in the Trump shutdown, or flight delay in the Trump shutdown, and is best-selling New York Times author, VH1 host, comedian. Oh, we love VH1, and all of the above.
Long time since they played music, but thank you.
I know. I was telling my students, I teach journalism, and we were talking about music, and I was talking about the advent of MTV, and I was like, oh God, I so miss when we could watch music videos on MTV.
Listen, I've been doing so many theological podcasts, but I've never had any that referenced Morris Day and the Time right before I came on. So
come on.
I'm very honored.
It must be like you inspired us. There's some, coincidentally, there was an 80s dance night last night. Not a coincidence.
Yeah, that was quite an outfit, by the way. I was meant to live in that decade too, but as punishment in my case, it was just as punishment. You were a fashion icon, Ashley. For me, it was not an easy decade for me. I didn't have my goth chromosome yet.
Oh, gotcha. All right. Very good. Well, your new book is Separation of Church and Hate. We've seen you on all our favorite shows, but for
all the
anybody
favorites
that doesn't know you yet, let's give them a taste of what you do.
AOC was on that town hall acting like Mike Johnson had voted to keep the government shut down. I mean, like, if an alien was watching that, that's what they would think, because that's how misleading that town hall was. Why won't Republicans just open it up? We've tried to vote multiple times.
Nine times.
Voted.
Without Mike Johnson's not trying to open it, and the Republicans are not in D.C., but it's lovely to have you here in New York.
He said we're doing constituent work during the shutdown, and I'm like, constituent work in Texas on a New York City TV set? Very okay, Congressman. Whatever you say, man.
Oh, by the way, I cut it off just a second too early. Yeah, there we go.
There it is. There it is.
Mic drop moment right there. So I guess let's get into it this way. You're talking to two people who were deep in the Seven Mountains world. We kept telling people like Lance Wallnau, we think the Bible says we're supposed to serve the mountains of culture, not take them over.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't talk to us anymore. And so
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. We were excommunicated early in this process. Like, we go back to like,
If Christian nationalism were a spectrum of, the Republic of Democratic America versus a theocracy of Christian nationalism, where would you say we're on that spectrum right now?
Oh man, I mean, it's hard to say, because I guess we're very close to Christian nationalism, but we're not very close to Christ, because this movement, like all movements of authoritarian Christianity, has nothing to do with the actual teachings of Jesus. They don't care about the teachings of Jesus. They call the actual teachings of Jesus woke. They don't really care about religious freedom. They don't really care about serving the Lord or fighting Satan. They care about conservative Christian domination of society, in religion, in our civic life and culture. Again, they aren't concerned at all with the commandments of Jesus in Matthew 25, that his followers, individuals and nations, will be judged, heaven or hell, by how they welcome the stranger, how they care for the poor, care for the sick, care for the incarcerated. This is the trap. Every generation of Christians has a choice. You either stand up to authoritarian power, or you align with it. You're either standing up to Caesar, or you're groveling to Caesar. And since Rome first figured out the formula in the Crusades of we're going to do the opposite of everything Christ commands us to do for Christ. We're going to slaughter we're going to slaughter Muslims, we're going to slaughter pagans, going to slaughter Jews, we're going to steal land. Everything Jesus tells us not to do, we're going to do it for Jesus. And then doctrine of discovery, same thing. Columbus is going to torture people and rape people and steal from people. Everything Christ tells us not to do, and he's going to do it in the shadow of the cross for Jesus. And that's how it's always been. The authoritarians always convince the flock that they are violating everything Christ told us about to further Christ's teachings. Enslaving people, we'll force Christianity on them. Ethnic cleansing of indigenous people, we'll steal their kids, put them into residential schools, teach them to be white, and force Christianity on them. And yet,
I mean, you remember the Bible, John, where Jesus said, be the first to cast the first stone, right?
But the thing is, this is what organized religion does to the words of Christ. But every generation that tries this, you'll see when the Christian nationalists or authoritarians are doing this, there's always the actual Jesus followers, right? Who resist and reform. When the Crusades were slaughtering people, St. Francis said no way and quit and walked unarmed through a war zone to host peace talks. When Columbus was slaughtering the Taino people in the shadow of the cross, it was the Catholic priest on his ship's third voyage, Bartolomeo de las Casas, who did the first great act of protest by a white person in this hemisphere and officially protested to the Queen how they were being abused when slavery was being propped up in this country by Christianity. It was the Christ followers. It was Frederick Douglass and the Quakers and Harriet Tubman. I mean, Hitler was Christian nationalism 101. And there you saw Christian martyrs like Dietrich Bonhoeffer give their lives for others. And segregation was propped up by Christianity. But Christ followers like Dr. King and his allies used the Bible to shame white America. This is the whole history of the movement. We've seen how many of us have talked parents and grandparents out of so much homophobia in the last 30 years. There's an incredible history of Christian activism. But it's almost always in response to Christian authoritarianism. And that's where the real dividing line is.
Yeah.
Where do you see that showing up today? Like when I imagine what your DMs
On
and
the
inbox might
news.
look like. No, I'm saying, like, where do you see the Christ followers showing up? Like, it's because like you said, it's not an organized thing. So when you scan your incoming,
I see it all over.
Antifa's an organization, right?
Yeah, right. No, I see it all over. I see it here in this podcast. I see it in the No Kings protest. What was it, John 6:15, where Jesus feeds 5,000 people miraculously, and they want to make him a king, but he's against that because power is the opposite of Christ's ministry. His ministry is about humility and service and going to the margins for the least of us and washing the feet of your own followers, and the last shall be first. Christ retreats to a mountain to avoid this mob because Jesus was the original member of No Kings. And that was what he was all about. And you see all this today. Look at Caroline Leavitt in the White House press briefing room. Always, these folks, they go behind a giant gold cross to take a dump on the New Testament. That's what they do. They don't follow Jesus. They publicly worship him. They don't listen to him, but they're here to fight for him. And so it's a great question, Ashley, because I see it everywhere. I mean, if you had told me in the 90s that we would have a black president and gay marriage and stop putting people in prison for weed, I'd say, no way. America's not kind enough. We're not there on love yet, but we have been. And every generation gets better. Kids today are shocked at how homophobic we used to be. Kids in 20 years are going to be shocked at how transphobic we were in the 20s. Economically, we're not going the right direction, but the humanity of our people, it keeps coming out.
It's the stunning thing for me is, we've seen the grooming come along of partnering with the Republican Party, but applauding the cruelty of it all. That Trump literally wants to starve people right now to punish the Democrats, and ICE, of course, and all the videos we're watching. That Christians applaud that. I frankly have been a little bit surprised by, which I'm probably surprised that I'm surprised. Are you surprised at how they applaud these horrible things?
No, I'm not. These are the folks who found beating cops on the Capitol steps for a lie to be acceptable. These are the folks who told me I hated America because I didn't want to bomb the wrong country after 9/11. Right. Because I don't believe in hating Muslims, because I believe all that actual Jesus talk. These are the folks who always get suckered, and it's the status quo is always slow to evolve. It's always the individuals who do it. All the great acts of progress in the history of Christianity since Rome took over in the last 1700 years, none of them came from the top. No great Christian progress came from leadership. It's all been from ordinary people who are convincing those around them that hate is not a Christian value. That's how segregation was beaten.
The new Substack is here. The new Substack is here. You heard it. Unconventional Pastor Paul has a new Substack page, and you don't want to miss it.
It's where I'm sharing daily, deep thoughts, prayers, and insightful content, where the manhood of God is being stolen.
a monster at the door can be monstrously beautiful and powerful.
If that's not enough, you can read my political blog on the Collective website, where we believe in the power of independent media to challenge oppression and fight fascism.
Sacred Rebellion and the Collective, live inspired as we journey into this 21st century spirituality together.
If Jesus were in America today, what would he say about the right-wing evangelical church? Pastor Paul's new novel, Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern-day parable, answers this question in a riveting story of a mysterious miracle-working stranger who upsets a conservative, evangelical town with his critique of their political views. Will the pastor and people of the local megachurch listen? Or will the church crucify the messenger all over again? Religious Right, Religiously Wrong is the story America needs right now. James Fallows, writer for The Atlantic and former speechwriter for President Jimmy Carter, says Paul's book is very much worth reading and could not be more timely. Wayne Jacobson, co-author of the mega bestseller, The Shack, says this novel will confront fears and challenge the reader to a more excellent way of living and loving. Religious Right, Religiously Wrong, a modern-day parable is available on Amazon or at our website evangelicalish.com.
So it's not a time of change. It's a time of revelation.
Well, it's always a time of change. I think Jesus' whole mission is not about obedience.
Yeah.
Jesus' whole mission is not about prop up a fan club to me and worship me. Jesus is all about transformation. I mean, not just getting born again once, but he's constantly, the whole purpose of a new covenant, he's constantly telling us to go beyond our religion's rules into a deeper kind of love. That's his whole gig. So I see it happening all the time if our hearts stay open and we want to keep on growing. But it's the people who think they found the truth, the fundamentalists. They're the ones who are the ones ruining all the great religions, ruining Judaism, ruining Islam, ruining Christianity. The extreme right wing of all the religions are the ones responsible for all the problems. People don't hate religion because of the nice liberal Muslims and Jews, and it's the fundamentalists, the ones who are always saying that women are second-class citizens. Every religion, the more to the right you are, Hinduism, all of them, women are second class. That's not Jesus. He treated women as equals. Then you've got violence is okay if our side does it, right? That's fundamentalism. God likes us better. So anything we do, if you're opposing us, you're on the side of Satan because we're on the side of God.
Yeah.
The sex hangups, the more to the right they are, the more they can't stand women or queer people enjoying sex. The always a focus on punishment instead of healing, always for the fundamentalism. And finally, this penchant for victimhood, this narrative of oppression, that we have been so under siege that we're allowed to be as cruel as we want because of what happened to us, the whole victim bully mentality. This is what fundamentalist Christians have more in common with fundamentalist Muslims ideologically than they do with liberals and moderates. And they don't follow Jesus. He's their mascot.
I feel like you are like shaking up the champagne bottle and the cork is about to blow. It's like, I'm like, yes. Like you're just reading, you are reading it like da, 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 da. And I've just been really impressed by as I've kind of been watching your stuff over the last month or so. Like you're
hey
just
man, I'm impressed by your
everything.
I'm impressed by your 80s outfit. I'm still dazzled by that. Like I'm trying to measure up.
If it's one thing I can
and
pull
she's a
off.
huge Morning Joe fan, and so that
No,
you were
you've
on with
talked to
Joe
my
makes
favorite
you a
people.
hero. Yeah.
And Jordan Klepper. Like when I saw that, I was like,
yeah.
oh my God, I love Jordan Klepper. I love the Comedy Central Daily Show. And then I watch Morning Joe because as a former Republican, Joe is like kind of the type of guy that I grew up with. That was like you actually wanted the Republicans in the room because they were smart, they were helping try to solve a problem, they had a little more of an operational focus, and it was like, to me, like the perfect blend is bringing in the aspiration and ambition of people who are more center left, and then you got to have some people who are center right in the room to be like, okay, if that's where you're trying to go, here's what needs to be, like kind of the mechanics of it. And that really is a way to create productive, given the two-party situation we have now. Like that's the way this should go. So when I saw you on Joe, I was like, okay. And I want to ask, if we have time at the end, I want to ask you what that was like.
Anything,
but on this like when I hear you talk, I'm like, this guy's no joke, even though you're very funny. You are no joke. And you some Bible. And I'm just curious, like where, and I've heard the story, you grew up with these very genuine, authentic, spiritual Christian people, but did you deliberately study did you go to seminary or anything? How do you
No.
know all this stuff?
No. I am proudly not an academic or a theologian. My mom was a former nun. My dad was a former Franciscan brother, and the Holy Trinity in my house growing up was Gandhi,
So if
Dr.
they
King.
obeyed God, you wouldn't exist.
Exactly right. Well, that's but here's the thing. Like when I was 11, I learned what a vow of celibacy was, and I learned that my parents once promised God I would never happen. So
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be here, but because of religion, I'm not supposed to be here, but because of religion, I get to be here.
Yeah.
So I have been very comfortable with the contradictions of organized religion and spirituality my entire life. And the Holy Trinity in my house growing up was Gandhi, Dorothy Day of Catholic Charities and the Catholic Worker Movement, and Dr. King. My father was deep into Christ's actual words and actual teachings about how we're supposed to treat each other. Never belonged to a political party. I've never belonged to a political party. I don't really know what I haven't seen the Republicans do anything that has any semblance of the teachings of Jesus in a very long time. I mean, I'm trying to think of when the Republicans have put non-millionaires first, and the most recent thing I can think of is Nixon and the earned income tax credit. Maybe you can find something in the last 50 years where the Republicans have fought for the actual teachings of Christ. I can't find it.
Well,
They
Reagan
fight for conservative Christian domination. They don't fight for the actual words of Christ. Democrats are the opposite. They are light years closer to the teachings of Christ, but they would never dare say it.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to say Reagan wouldn't say the word AIDS, but he did want to do a guest worker program and an amnesty program, and
That's a good one.
He said we should
did.
not have a border between Mexico and the United States.
That's a good
was
one.
Open borders. He did it not because of for Christ-like reasons. He did it for economic reasons, saying that when they're done working here, then they can. When they're done working here for a substandard, he never called for them to have a living wage.
That's true.
But he said, yeah, we should have open borders so they can come here and work for the season and agriculture, and then go home when they're done. Donald Trump's essentially doing the same thing right now because they've done a carve out for the agricultural sector.
Yeah.
All those illegals are safe now because if you got rid of them, a salad would cost $75. It's all about greed. And for me, I wanted to write this book because we don't need to fight. And with AIDS, you're exactly right. I mean, 20,000 people died before Reagan said the word. I believe 60,000 Americans died before Donald Trump ever said the word contact tracing, by the way, in COVID. But, for me, I grew up very steeped in this, and I was never formally educated in theology, but it's sort of been an obsession of mine. And as a comedian, I was told for many years by agents, don't talk about this. But the more I talked about it, the more I met amazing people who had the same experience. They were raised Christian and now consider themselves spiritual because they're so turned off by all the cruelty and hypocrisy and meanness of so many organized churches. So I wrote Separation of Church and Hate as a guide for everyone who feels gaslit, that you're not crazy, that the religion of love and peace and empathy and nonviolence that you thought this was is what it really is. And the right wing has hijacked a movement of peace and turned it into a mean little white supremacist tax-free clique. And I wrote the book because even if you're atheist, if you're debating a Christian nationalist on any of the issues that divide us, most likely Jesus is on your side, whether he's real or not, or literal or not. The Jesus of the Bible,
the spirit of Jesus is on your side.
So, we don't need to fight these people. We can let them fight God on immigration. It's really simple. The God of the Hebrew scriptures commands us to welcome the stranger. He doesn't ask politely, and commands us to treat the alien as one of our own. Yeah. Jehovah is not ambiguous about this in the Old Testament. Then his son shows up, and in Matthew 25, Jesus lays down his marching orders to the judgment of nations and says that individuals and nations will be judged, heaven or hell, by how they welcome the stranger. And he says that the ones who are going to hell are the ones who talk a good game but don't welcome the stranger. So you don't need to fight right-wingers about this. I was on CNN with our pal Scott Jennings last month, and I said to him, look, God says this, Jesus says this. Why should I listen to you and Donald Trump and reject God and Jesus?
What did he say? What did he say?
I'll tell you what he said. He got flustered, said, whoa, we're not a theocracy. We're not a theocracy.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm not calling for a theocracy. Y'all are. You guys are the ones pretending the Bible is somehow against abortion. You're the ones pretending that Jesus is somehow against LGBTQ people.
Yes.
But what they really proved is, no, it's not that you're fighting for a theocracy. It's that you're fighting for the opposite of Jesus. You use him as a mascot and call him a Messiah, but you legislate against his teachings.
The cruelty gets to me, but the hypocrisy all the more. Franklin Graham saying we're voting for a president, not a pastor. I excuse my language, but fuck you, Franklin Graham.
And by the way, that whole King Cyrus thing, that whole, he's a flawed vessel. Read the scriptures, liberals. God uses flawed, imperfect vessels to bring about his divine.
Which is exactly what they said about Bill Clinton, right?
Yeah, but you know what you say to that? You say to that, okay, what teaching of Christ is this flawed vessel bringing about? What teachings from Jesus, not Paul, Jesus in the New Testament, what commandments or teachings of Jesus is your precious King Cyrus flawed vessel? Grab him by the pussy, man baby, comb over Caligula. What is he fighting for exactly? And this is, again, just ask them. Tell me the Jesus teaching that Donald Trump fights for, that MAGA fights for legislatively, and you'll find out how little they know the Bible.
And he had another great Gatsby party this last weekend. I
Wait,
mean,
what? What?
I mean,
2 weekends in a row?
It wasn't Gatsby themed this time, but all the trappings of another Gatsby. I think Trump thinks because it's called Great Gatsby that it means Gatsby was great. And
I mean, except instead of trying to impress one woman, he's trying to impress all of us. And instead of using his own money, he's using ours to try to get more popular with his own base.
We should start a thing, the Great Gatsby, for all the gaslighting that's going on.
Joy wrote a book. Joy Behar wrote a book called The Great Gas Bag in the first term, actually.
Okay,
but just just ask. You don't need to fight him. Just say, tell me the teaching of Christ, my Christian brother. And the first thing they'll say is abortion. This is how you find out they don't know the Bible.
Yeah.
And they're counting on you not knowing the Bible.
Right.
So the first thing they'll say is abortion. And then you got to very calmly point out, Jesus is against the death penalty more than once, but he never mentions abortion, never mentions ending pregnancy. The Bible never mentions ending pregnancy. The Bible never tells you what the penalty is for ending a pregnancy. In the Bible, in the Jewish religion, life begins with first breath. God asserts a fetus as property in Exodus 21, and that a woman's life has more value in his eye.
Right.
In Numbers chapter 5, God famously gives rather gruesome abortion tips for pregnant, unfaithful wives. God shows us what he thinks of innocent lives of children and with Passover. I mean, throughout the entire book, God's the least pro-life character there. God never thought to have Moses or Elisha or Jesus or Paul or any of the prophets ever mention abortion. And it existed in the Bible time.
Right.
And that's why abortions are legal and free in Israel right now. Not saying the Bible's pro-abortion, not saying Jesus is a clinic escort. Yeah, but they fight for stuff they pretend Jesus said, like the homophobia and abort. They don't want to do the stuff he actually commands. The second thing they'll say is immigration. You're like, no, Jesus said, welcome the stranger. The third most common thing I've gotten in the last 10 years is when I ask about Trump and what Christ teachings, this is true. They'll say, he moved the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem. And that's what I have to explain. No, Jesus never mentions the United States or where our embassy should be in 2,000 years in the year 33 AD.
Right.
They haven't read it. And for 45 years, these evangelicals and right-wing Catholics have been gaslit by this Jerry Falwell kind of televangelism. That for 45 years, they've gotten followers of Jesus to vote against everything Jesus talks about by talking about abortion, which Jesus never talks about.
And gaslit's a good word. I also say groomed because I was in pastoral training when had a professor say abortion's never prohibiting abortion is never mentioned in the Bible. And you're like, wait, no, what? No, yeah, that's right. And then you go look at it. And even the Talmud specifically allows
it. Yep.
For a woman in distress.
Because the woman's life takes priority in Jesus' religion. The woman's life takes priority in the religion Jesus was raised in.
I want to get your take on something going on in MAGA right now.
I will, but again, Jesus totally against the death penalty. Don't forget to tell him that. Overturns eye for an eye and Sermon on the Mount. Stops an execution. Says only the sinless can execute other people. But these folks love killing them some sinners. They don't think it's murder when big government does it. They don't follow Jesus. You don't have to hate him. You just have to talk about the stuff Christ talks about.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
No, you're good. And
you guys are getting me all hopped up with my
love it.
My jet lag coffee here. Thank you.
So MAGA's having a meltdown over the election on Tuesday, which we can get to, but Tucker Carlson interviewed a Nazi.
He did.
And it's got some stuff going on. So I just want to play a little clip so people understand what's going on and just kind of get your take on what's happening.
With millions of followers known as Groypers, Fuentes is known for his open racism.
White people have a special heritage here as Americans.
His misogyny, like when he wrote, "Your body, my choice," after the 2024 election.
The whole political system is just based around women never being accountable for any of their choices.
And his overt anti-Semitism, ranging from Holocaust denial to his belief in a global Jewish conspiracy.
A big challenge to that is organized Jewry in America. I don't think
this guy.
Sharp condemnation from many in the conservative movement. Ben Shapiro, editor of the conservative Daily Wire, wrote, "No to the Groypers, no to the cowards like Tucker Carlson who normalize their trash."
Christians can critique the state of
Heritage
Israel without
Foundation.
being anti-Semitic.
But Kevin Roberts, head of the Heritage Foundation, defended Carlson. Heritage is the influential conservative think tank behind Project 2025, and which has long supported Israel and America's support for it. Roberts argued attacking Carlson was a distraction.
The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division. Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right.
Oh, man.
You know what, Paul, that was hard to hear for some in the chat. So you might want to post that link and then just recap it real quick.
Yeah, they missed a lot of Nick Fuentes' wisdom. Paul, want to let you know. This simian child man Nazi, Nick Fuentes. They missed a lot. I think it's terrific. I think the fact that Nick Fuentes and Kanye West were over at Donald Trump's for Thanksgiving for an all-you-can Nazi dinner. I think that's exactly the face of the movement. Tucker Carlson should be sitting down with Nick Fuentes because they are equally racist and white supremacist, and they despise the actual teachings of Christ as much as they despise women and the Bill of Rights. So, I mean, and Heritage Foundation, dude, he's backed. First he defended them, then he backed off from it because then he actually saw the stuff Nick Fuentes said a few days later. So then he backed off from it again. They're a cult of selfishness. They'll believe whatever they have to believe to get more power. So if it's anti-Semitism today or defending Israel tomorrow, whatever it is, they don't care. They will hold two thoughts at once. Donald Trump can be as anti-Semitic as he wants to be. They don't care about Jews. They care about Israel being destroyed in the tribulations. They care about rapture fan fiction that has nothing to do with Jesus, where the tribulations will come and Jews will be slaughtered by God or forcibly converted. They care that much. These are apocalyptics. They care about the end of the world and them being on top. That's all they care about, is that they're better than you. That's
isn't it stark though that the Heritage Foundation has to have discussions of should we condemn Nick Fuentes or not? Is that going to hurt us if we say being a Nazi is bad? I mean,
it's going to hurt us if we don't say it. And it's going to hurt us if we don't call out the Heritage Foundation and make every single Republican elected official go on the record about Nick Fuentes' comments towards Jews, towards women, towards our LGBTQ brethren. And again, to ask, where the hell do you get off calling yourself Christian? and following these Jew haters? How
And
are you going to
Fuentes is
follow a
picking
faith?
up a lot of the Kirk acolytes right now. The Charlie Kirk people who were
Yeah.
originally Charlie Kirk's guys are now really kind of moving toward Nick now.
Yeah, and you'll have to tell me what teaching of Jesus of the Gospels did Mr. Kirk fight for? I mean, I've been to Turning Point USA's website many times. I don't see anything about the poor. I don't see anything about the stranger, about helping the sick, about forgiving people, about blessing your enemies. Like, Christianity is a camouflage for these folks. They care about power. They care about empire. They despise the actual teachings of Christ, and they will call you woke or a socialist if you try to push them. And millions of Christians who've been raised in this cult, this religion of love, are wondering what the hell happened. How did it all get so hijacked? Why are the mean
Yep.
people doing it? And it's time for us all to flip some tables here. And
Yep.
again, we don't have to hate him. We just have to get on the record about what the character of Jesus in this book we all agree on actually says. Because if you're going to call yourself Christian, well, if I'm in a Rolling Stones cover band, but we don't play any Rolling Stones songs, just Vanilla Ice, I should find a new name for my shitty group.
Okay, I got
Vanilla Ice. That's another
so many
classic
things I want to
reference.
talk to you about. Okay, I'm gonna attempt to paddle in this rapid waters right now and just couple things. So one, I know you hear this a lot, and Paul hears it a lot too. Your tone, your affect, your mean joking, whatever, isn't Christ-like either. How do you choo choo choo? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll tell you. First off, I don't claim to be a good Christian. How about that? Huh?
Okay.
I know the Bible really well, but I'm not selling religion to anybody. I'm not trying to make anybody join my cult.
Yeah.
I'm saying this is what Christ actually says. I'm not here to talk about religion. I'm here to talk about Jesus. I'm not here to talk about the many unauthorized fan clubs that speak for him. I'm here to talk about the character in the book who says this. I don't care about the miracles. I don't care about divinity. I can't prove any of that stuff. I believe it in my heart, but I can't use 2,000-year-old supernatural accounts to tell other people how to live. It's not a real good way to convert people. I think the teachings of Christ are the revolutionary ethics. So that's what crosses against ideological, crosses religious lines. I mean, it's love. And if you're going to use Jesus as camouflage so you can spread hate and division, I wrote this book to be camouflage removal. No, we have to thump the Bible thumpers with the Bible. I mean, I wish they had done it to Hitler before it was too late. I wish they had done it to Columbus before he hurt too many people. We can all do it. And it doesn't mean you have to join a certain church or join a certain political party either. So I totally get, and I'll also say, and this is important for me as a comedian, I don't go after suckers. I don't go after people who have been duped. I go after two groups: people in power and mean people. Those are the groups I go after. As a comedian, as a broadcaster on Sirius XM, as an author, I come from two very large Southern and Brooklyn Christian families with many conservative people. I love many conservatives, and I understand how systemically Christianity has been a long con for many, many people for many, many years. I totally get it. I mean, they got the Christians to vote for Caligula. They got the Christians to support war against a country that had never attacked us. We've seen it happen in our own lifetime, how they manipulate. George W. Bush said, God will not be neutral. I mean, that's blasphemy. But then they killed 1 million civilians, or 900,000 civilians. So for me, it's very important, A, that I don't hate anybody. And I don't. If Donald Trump needed a bone marrow and I was the one donor match, I'd fly to Mar-a-Lago on my own nickel to help out. I'd love to. But we have to beat them. We have to try to reason with them. We can't hate them. But in a democracy, we must beat them. And if they're going to use the Bible to push an anti-Jesus agenda, the rest of us are allowed to actually quote the Bible to see if they really mean it, because they don't. And so I go after those in power, and I go after mean people. But I have tons of conservative and even right-wing relatives who are very nice one-on-one. They don't have hate in their heart. They've been suckered. I'm not going after those people. I don't see any purpose to it. It's power and cruelty that are the opposite of Christ, and that's what I try to mock. Is that a good answer?
I mean, it's a great answer. And it is a great answer. Well, I'm just curious too, if you don't mind being a little bit personal here, how has this been with close family who, they see your stuff on social media or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, we can't believe that, nephew John or cousin
Yeah.
John is saying this stuff." Like, how do you talk openly about it, or like what do you do with that?
Some of them liked it more when I was hosting America's Funniest Home Videos. Some of them liked it more when I was a VH1 VJ or when I was getting shot on CSI. I've done a lot of things in television and comedy. No, my family's wonderful, and my conservative family's wonderful, and they had to deal with my parents. They had a Franciscan brother in Brooklyn. They were sure they'd get to heaven because of that, and they had a nurse who was a nun working with lepers in Malawi, and my mom. They were sure they'd get to heaven for that, and then my parents had a different calling and left the clergy, and they always said that the same love that called them into a life of service, a life of the cloth, that same love called them beyond clergy into a different
Amazing.
kind of love and into raising kids and paying the bills and having a family and having that kind of job. My father always felt it was a completely consistent spiritual continuation for him. So I have some relatives who don't care for the way I talk, but I'm nice to them, and they know I'm not a hateful person. They know that I love them, and they know that I'm, using Jesus to argue in favor of helping the less fortunate. So I'm like, come at me, man. Go ahead. Tell me again why we should be mean to the marginalized for Christ. Tell me again about this budget and why we should cut 20 million low-income and disabled humans off of Medicaid. Let's have the talk.
Yeah. It reminds me of Tony Campolo, the old pastor that used to say, children are going to bed starving tonight and you don't give a shit. And right now you care way more that I just said shit than you do that people are children are going to bed hungry
Exactly
tonight.
right. Exactly right.
My favorite, Ashley and I have this argument all the time because she's an amazing bridge builder and she can sit down with people who suck and do really well at it. I, on the other hand, I'm just so, people have a voice now that they didn't have in Jesus' day. Jesus didn't go after the poor suckers, but now the poor suckers have a very loud megaphone, and it just makes me angry that they're putting the lives of my students who are of color in their lives are in danger. My trans friends, their lives are in danger
always
because of what these people are doing, and not just the complicity, but speaking the propaganda. And I just have a really hard time not saying, at some point you chose to be blind to the reality. You made some choices to get here, because I was in the same stuff and somehow I made a choice to get out. So somewhere along the line, you chose the comfiness of the club rather than caring about people.
Correct. I mean, if you're a hater trying to hurt people, you don't get to pretend you follow Christ. And if you're and again, they're what I call the anything but Jesus Christians, right? When it comes to homophobia, you'll get my homophobia when you pry it from my cold, dead hands, woke Jesus. I mean, they don't want to let go of any prejudice they think they're divinely sanctioned to have. And they love hating gay people. Like they grew up thinking that's okay. And as George Harrison said, as long as you hate, there will be people to hate. So if you want to hate people, but this pesky woke Jesus comes in here and commands us, and the Sermon on the Mount is not compatible with any kind of homophobia. Like, you cannot do not judge lest you be judged. I mean, like the entire thing, Jesus is not homophobic. And I'm fond of pointing out, there's no part of the Bible anyone follows or lives by or believes in that says that being gay is a sin.
Yeah.
None. Sodom and Gomorrah is about gang rape. Nobody follows Leviticus. Leviticus commands us to stone adulterers to death. Leviticus 20:10, Trump fans. But this wickedness you speak of has always been around, and Jesus called it out. Jesus calls out the conservative religious bosses of his day. Jesus tells us in Matthew 6:5, don't trust those loudmouths praying in public to be seen. He says, pray in private. God's in private, you pray. That's what he gives us, the Our Father. He literally tells you not to trust these frauds. It was in Jesus's day too. And they were living under military occupation in the Holy Land, where they were crucifying people on the side of the road. It was a bit shittier than what we have right now. So whatever period, put us in the Civil War, put us in World War II. There's always atrocities and Christians perpetrating them.
Yeah. And then
this is the time we're living in.
they were then subjugating the Samaritans because the oppressed love to oppress. And
Yeah.
my favorite Bible verse that nobody's ever heard of that I use a lot is Jesus saying to religious people, "You think you're going to be lifted up? No, Judgment Day is going to be better for Sodom than for you." I love that verse. I just think it's so stark with who he
Hey,
was.
so we have
And
two
God
questions in the
God asserts in Ezekiel that he didn't nuke Sodom and Gomorrah because of same-sex activity. He did it
Right.
because of the way they treated poor people and the less fortunate.
Let's do this. So I'm mindful of time, and I know you've been up and like traveling, and you're so generous to be with us today. We got two good questions in the chat. Let's try to get through those quickly, and then I'd love
Okay.
for you to talk a little bit more about like what's in the book.
Sure.
And then if we have time for it, and if you're open to this, sharing a little bit, because folks who gather here with us on Ish are, very much in the same kind of stream and kind of working through like, what does spirituality look like? When
Yes.
the institutional church crumbles, like we're all trying to find it is this individual journey and path, like, and I'm curious what that looks like for you. So if that can be our little game plan for the next few minutes, and then we'll
She's
get you
such a
back to
good
your.
organizer, isn't
I'm
she?
a
Yeah,
good
seriously.
organizer.
Thank God you
Okay.
got somebody here because the rest of us are just a mess. Sure thing.
Oh, you're
I'm
great.
I'm drunk right now. Thank you. This is
Yeah,
infrastructure.
hell yeah. Okay, so great question from River Hugger here. What do you think about the election results this week?
Oh, I mean, of course, I mean, it's wonderful. This was not an election. This was an intervention. This was an exorcism. And
We
America
hope. We
threw
hope.
holy water on the possessed Donald Trump and said, "Get thee behind me, loser." This was beautiful this week. I mean, the results were so thorough, so consistent across the board. I was in San Francisco on election night. I was doing a
Super
cruise
fun.
I was doing a cruise for the Nation magazine all week and working. And we had a big event for the nation's anniversary with Governor Jerry Brown and Robert Reich and Elie
Oh,
Mystal and Anne
yeah.
Lamott. It was crazy, great. Yeah, they're scared right now. They know what's going to happen in 2016. They're so scared that they're trying to rig Texas 15 months before the midterms. I mean, they're trying to rig the election in Texas. They're so scared of what's going to happen. And these Republicans know it. And they're going to try as hard as they can to interfere anyway and make it harder for folks to vote. And it's not going to work. The reality is we got some folks who are only going to show up to vote and come out from the mountains and the woods and the swamps when that Mr. Trump from the TV is on the ballot. And when that Mr. Trump from the TV is not on the ballot, like say 2018 or 2022, we know exactly what happens. So we know what's going to happen next year because, again, they win when there's low turnout. And I've only seen Democrats, I'm not a Democrat, but I've only seen Democrats get the White House in my lifetime after Republicans have burned the House down. A Democrat has never gotten to office when things are going well.
Or torn it down to make
Or
room
torn
for
the
the
East Wing down, yeah.
Jimmy
the new
Carter,
burn it down.
Jimmy Carter got in because of Watergate. Bill Clinton got in because 12 years of trickle down collapsed. Barack Obama got in because George W. Bush was the worst president we'd ever had. Joe Biden got in for the same reason. So, the next one, I mean, I don't care who it is. I'm more focused on the midterms. And I think that the Democrats, now I'm going to talk like a radio host, but the Democrats who promise accountability, who promise come January, there's going to be hands on Bibles from these cabinet members. You guys loot all you want right now, crime all you want for the next year. Come 2027, the rule of law is back in the Congress. And they're going to haul you and make you go under oath and talk about the crimes. Those Democrats who promise that, they're going to win the fundraising, which apparently is all politicians care about. And it may be a very different looking Congress in 2027 than the one we have right now. But yeah, it's going to be very exciting.
I'm just like a kicked dog, though. I can't get excited about what happened on Tuesday because I just every time you think, okay, this is going to go well, something happens. Trump gets
Hang on a second. This 33-year-old kid in New York City who's a Muslim, who's the truest,
it's amazing,
who's more Christian than anybody on the ballot, fighting for poverty, fighting for poor people to get food and groceries, baskets for baby mamas, letting poor folks ride the bus and public transportation for free. He's more Christian than any of the Christians smearing him for being a Muslim. I mean, I can't believe we're alive in this time. And all these
Mm.
racists who are saying, oh, New York, 24 years later, and look what you're doing after 9/11. It's like, you racist pigs. Is he a jihadist or is he a liberal? He can't be both. The jihadists are on your side, fundamentalists. Fundamentalist Muslims believe in killing people and blowing shit up like fundamentalist Christians do. No, he's one of those liberal Muslims, like the liberal Jews and liberal Christians who are fighting for the least of us. That's what y'all really can't stand, because they show how flawed and phony your theology is. I know it's okay not to be excited about it. It was an off year election, but I mean, look at Georgia. Look at the local results. Mississippi broke the Republican. Mississippi broke the Republican supermajority. My mother and grandmother were both born in Virginia, and we got the first woman governor in the state's history. It's finally like the Handmaid's Tale is not a how-to manual anymore. So I get it. It's discouraging, and every time something positive happens, it gets worse. But that's life. That's America. That's living in this world. And just remember, even if you're not happy about it or excited about it, doesn't matter. The work goes on. The work has to go on, whether we're happy about it or not.
We have to just think about the companion muscles of like organized politics and elected officials and just like regular people doing good things in their communities and shifting culture. Like it's not one or the other, it's both.
The stuff that never makes it on the air. The stuff that the haters get the clicks, the haters get the eyeballs, the haters get the coverage. And the good Christians and the charity, no one cares. No one gets supported.
In my lifetime, what I have learned is, for sure, we want good people in elected office and appointed officials. For sure, we do. But we have been, we have been so lazy in building up in my lifetime and building up and beefing up the civic sector and culture that actually is responsible for, all the good things. We can look back in the past and say, hey, we're building a foundation of a country that could be really great, really different. The way that came about, it's not the like famous politician. It's not. And as much as I could be happy about the new mayor, and I wish him well, the last thing in the world we need for anybody who wants to break this fever, the last thing we need is to make the mistake of thinking it is one celebrity politician that is going to change this. I mean, for God's sake.
It all comes from the people. The leaders catch up. The people
lead. It has
lead.
to. And it's not easy. It is millions and millions and millions of details and organizing and people working together to make their places, their local districts different. And then that's like the muscular system that holds the spine in place. I hate that Dems and Republicans, obviously the same, but like I'll criticize center left for a second. I hate that Dems make this mistake too. Yeah. So anyway, like that's my one and only.
You mean your buddy Gavin Newsom can't fix everything for us?
I mean, let's call the electeds like the skeletal system of our society, but the organs and the meat and the muscle and all that comes from regular folks choosing to see each other, love each other, show up, do a little thing, know they're part of a bigger deal. That's the only way. Otherwise, you get brittle bone syndrome. And whether it's Gavin, I mean, any of these folks are subject to if we don't have the muscles wrapped around. Period. Okay.
It's true.
End of rant.
Hate gets the headlines, and the haters get all the camera coverage, and the millions of deeds of kindness and service and love by Christians, Muslims, and Jews is not sexy enough to get on TV, so we never hear about it. But you're right. And all progress comes from the people. The leaders have never given us rights. People have fought for rights until the leaders caught up with the people.
That's exactly right.
It's why Gavin having Steve Bannon on his podcast didn't work, but mocking, being America's favorite governor on Twitter has.
LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. He didn't make them happen.
1,000% did not. Okay, let's get to Moss's question here. Moss asks, where do you get your news? The media is so crowded and confused.
Sirius XM Progress. That's where I work. I work on America's only coast-to-coast 24/7 progressive news channel. Channel 127. I do the primetime programming. And if you're sick of corporate media, I understand. I've been saying for a long time, like I enjoy doing corporate media, but I notice I see these Democratic senators and politicians in the green rooms at CNN or when I do MSNBC. I don't see them on all the individual podcasts, right? And J.D. Vance, the Republicans have got this figured out. Last year, J.D. Vance took a motorcade to every racist with a podcast living in his mom's basement. If you're a racist with a podcast in your mom's basement, JD Vance has been to your house to be on your show. I'm certain of it. And I've been saying Democrats need to take a page out of this. And then when my book came out, I realized, oh, I need to do what I've been admonishing Democrats to do and be on as many web shows, and not just the cable news, but go on as many local radio shows and things like that as possible, to try to reach folks. Because if Democrats are just kind of waiting for CNN or MSNBC to call, like the Republicans are out there doing everything right now. They're getting their message and propaganda out, and their message is one of selfishness and convenience, which is much more seductive than the fight we need to do. So I'd like to see more, so I did all these. I said yes to everything, and I try. I'm so grateful to be on your show. I've done like local radio all over, and here's what happened the week my book came out, about how to beat Christian nationalism with nonviolence and scripture. 24 hours later, the most famous Christian nationalist in America got murdered by another white heterosexual male with a gun he easily acquired. Charlie Kirk was not a fan of mine. He did not like me. He came after me many times, a couple times. But as soon as that awful murder happened, all my cable news appearances were canceled. Okay, everyone canceled me. And I understood that. That's how it is. You get bumped, right? When there's news, and especially, they're not going to have me on to talk about how to beat these guys when he's been shot. And yet my book still made the New York Times bestseller list for the first 2 weeks when every corporate media canceled us, which tells me not only is the media infrastructure much wider than just cable news, which we already know, but it also told me that this message resonates. Because I said for years, they say the number one religious group in America are Mormons, that's growing, or maybe it's Islam. Some say it's none of the aboves. And I've always said it's people who were raised religious and now consider themselves spiritual. So I took it as a huge validation, not because I'm a great writer, but that this spiritual America is out there, and we miss the Christianity of Christ and the values of Christ we were raised with. And people are really tired of this mean movement filled with bullies doing a lot of pious talk and a lot of giving the middle finger to what's actually in the Gospels.
It almost feels like that's the point we should end on, but I won't do that, because I have just a curiosity of knowing what it's like to be on like Piers Morgan and argue with these people. And let me play a clip for people first so they can kind of see what it's like. And then I just want to hear from you what this feels like for you.
1% of the country identifies with the main traits of Christian nationalism, and yet they make up 2/3 of the Supreme Court. But it is a very powerful movement that seeks to insert a very narrow, again, Christ-free version of Christianity onto every level of our government.
Look how she just doesn't get it. Yeah.
This. Our official religion is all and or none. And if you are fighting against other religions because you think you're superior because of Jesus, then you don't actually follow Jesus, because his entire movement was about humility, uplifting the less fortunate, fighting for the marginalized, not total right-wing domination of politics or the school board. Again, I don't see any actual teachings of Christ that the right wing fights for. The only thing Donald Trump and Jesus have in common is they both spent a lot of time around hookers and they both use ghostwriters.
Andrew, Andrew, let me just ask you a question, which is this.
Happy to talk about scripture, by the way. Happy to talk about what Christ actually says versus Republican policies.
Me too. Okay, Andrew, my question for you would be this. Under Christian nationalism, what happens to Jews, Muslims, Hindus, atheists? I mean, what happens to those people if the identity of the United States is to be a Christian nationalist country? Then where does that leave people who don't identify as Christian nationalists?
Yeah, same thing that happens when you have state religions in nations right now. Nothing. So there's Western nations, people forget about this, that have churches.
Oh, it's so bigoted.
Church of whatever the nation
They
is.
want the government to tell Jewish
what?
kids
Still
you're
free to
inferior.
pray how you want. Guess what? Here in the United States, when it was 95% Christian, identified 95% as
65%. It was 95% in the 90s.
You're persecuted, right?
That would be a bonus.
I'll go ahead and stop it there. But he went on to like challenge you with,
oh yeah,
white people founded this place. White people built this country.
Oh, the white people all on their own with no help from anyone built this place. Yeah, I love it. That guy, that guy was he lost it. These guys have never, a lot of these folks have never heard someone from the left talking about Christ and calling out their hypocrisy.
That's right.
And that guy couldn't stop calling me a viper, calling me names the whole time. Like, you
Yeah.
viper, you viper. And I was like,
Yeah.
he kept calling me names. I was like,
I'm surprised he didn't say, "Get behind me, Satan."
Oh, at one point I said to him, dude, hit the other cheek. I'm not going to hate you back. So then I wrote to that guy and I'm like, look, let's go on each other's shows. Let's continue this. So I went on his show. They asked me to come on for 3 hours. I said I'd come on for 2. They asked me to come on for a debate about Christian nationalism versus the status quo. And it was a lie. The entire thing was for him to attack me and quote my book and try to hurt me and make me look bad. And it was all of the whole audience was these right-wing racist guys who can't spell your, and they're all just like, or can't spell there and there, all piling on, hate. And for 2 hours straight, just hate. And I just kept quoting the Bible. And so then I had him on my show, that same guy. He came on my show. And on my show, I didn't fight him. I just asked him questions about his life, about how he got into podcasting, about how he got into debating. And then I got deeper into the politics. And I said, tell me the teachings of Jesus that Trump fights for. You know what he said? He said, Jesus was born male, perfectly male, and Donald Trump fights for true gender to be recognized. I was like, that's the best you can do, dude. And I'll tell you something. I bent over backwards to be nice to him. He had been so hostile, called me names. And I was like, no way, bitch. I'm going to love you. And at the end of the hour on my show, he asked my producer and me if he could come back sometime and said he'd love to have me back on his show.
Wow.
And I was like,
wow.
So, and we're at our stopping time, but how do you rinse down from all of that? How do you get
I spend time with nice people like you.
Which, for the record, we're not in our parents' basement, but we are in our home offices here. So you are definitely getting out there.
But you guys have you guys have such a fan base, and you guys are really talking the gospel, and you guys are really doing it in a way that's going to confront people and nudge them out of their comfort spaces, which I respect because that's Jesus. Your comfort zone will kill you. Jesus isn't about lie back, be comfortable. You're better than other people. God likes you better because you joined the right God fan club.
Yeah.
No, Jesus is about you got to pick up your damn cross.
That's it.
Pick up your cross
deepest
and
the
follow
hardest.
me.
Yeah, the
Satan
deepest
offered
and the
it.
hardest. Whatever is the deepest pain of like, oh, I could never reach that, reach across and love that person or do that. And it's like, yep, that's what you got to do. And then like that. The most sacrificial love, the hardest sacrificial love. Make a sacrifice for someone you don't know or who's coming at you. I mean, that's it. That's the substance. If there is, people get upset when I say this because it could definitely be taken the wrong way. But if there is a Christian foundation of the U.S., it's that. It's that. It's not this power thing. It is people, to the extent that we see other people make sacrifices for each other, listen to each other, love each other. That is actually the foundation of the Spirit of Christ that may be in this country still or may not. I don't know. But that's what we're talking about.
If people from your own religion aren't calling you a wine bibber and someone who hangs with prostitutes, you're not doing it right, I think.
America is the best and worst of everything, right? I mean, the same document that says all men are created equal has the words merciless Indian savages. We are the best and worst in this. We are slavery and we are the abolitionist movement.
Yeah.
We are segregation and we are the civil rights movement. We are homophobia and we are the fight for marriage equality. Like, you get to choose which side you want to be on. Every generation, we are slavery and we are the resistance. You get to choose it. And it's the same thing now. Christians are always called to either pick up the cross and follow Jesus or to just assume that you're better than other people because you're in the right fan club. And it's a lazy spirituality. The devil offers Jesus incredible power if he'll bow down to him. And Jesus isn't interested in the power. Christian nationalism is taking a look at that cross you got to carry and saying, you know what, Satan, I think I'll take the deal.
The book is Separation of Church and Hate by John Fugelsang. Make sure you get. I haven't got to read it all yet, but I've been poking through it.
Well, I hope you're still speaking to me by the time you get to the end. But let me know.
Of course, I love it. I love your. I interviewed Kristen DeMay back in 2019.
Oh, she's a genius.
Jesus and John Wayne book.
That woman's a shaman.
And there was a part of me of like, I think you're going a little too far with this. And now I realize she was not going far enough.
She's a
all
genius.
Of that.
Oh, yeah.
I've got to ask you though, Joe and Mika, what are they like? Ashley has to know. Yeah.
I very nice. You know, I've only hung out with Joe once outside of a TV studio, and Mika's a very nice lady. Yeah, you know, I was very impressed that they would have me on that show for this topic.
Yes, totally.
And
when
for
I was
Joe, as a guy who was when I met Joe the first time years ago, you know, he was diehard conservative, campaigning for George W. Bush, defending the Iraq War. And that guy's come a long way, I think, in public and evolved quite a bit. And we don't agree on lots of stuff, but he's always been nice to me, and I hope I'm nice to him.
Well, and a great example of making a sacrifice, right? Going against his base and in the pursuit of truth and light. He's like, you know, he has taken a lot of arrows, and that is a person who, therefore, to me, is trustworthy. Anyway, in my mind, we're best friends, and he's
well. Look at the Pope. Look at this Pope Leo. Pope Leo, when he came out and said, like, if you're going to persecute migrants, you're not a Christian. This, like, you don't understand. Like, the Catholic Church, the job is to get people to put money in the baskets every weekend. That's the job. That's why so many clergy don't want to be controversial. That's why they don't take a stand, because your job is bring in revenue, don't piss them off. So for this Pope to come out and tell all the racists at the Catholic Church in America, no, man, you don't get to do this persecution of immigrants. That's a Pope who doesn't care if people don't put money in a basket this weekend. And that's why I trust him. That's why I'm impressed.
While we're fangirling names, I do have to. Have you talked to Crystal Ball yet?
I haven't, but I look forward to, I hope to at some point. I think she's a really ferocious brain.
Yeah. All right, John. Boy, you hung with us after a brutal day, and we screwed up one of your appearances.
No. It's all me. I was away. So thank you guys for your patience with me. It's really a pleasure. And thank you for what you do to inspire people and to make the tent bigger and to call us to love in different ways. I mean, I'm honored to be here, and I thank you for lowering yourself to my level.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Stop.
We had a great time.
We're all doing our part, and thank you. I feel like you've got a leader. You know, you've got this leadership thing going. You know, people are hearing you. You've got some platform.
I'm a clown, just a clown. But there is going to be a paper. We're doing a show in DC next week. I should plug to show that I am a whore. We're doing a big show, live show in DC. For the Separation of Church and Hate tour, and that's going to be at meathook.live, and it's going to be moderated by our good friend Glenn Kirshner, who I love from Justice Matters and MSNBC, and hopefully on the road next year at a town near you, because
let's do it.
I am a humble comedian above all.
Come on now, we're going to get you to Fresno.
Are you going to be in Cali anytime soon?
In Cali, yeah, I just got back, and hopefully coming back. I'll be back next year. I'm going to be doing a book reading in LA in December, but hopefully on the road all year next year.
Awesome.
Great. All right. Well, best of
guys,
luck.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for all you do.
What a joy.
Such a pleasure.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks to your very attractive listeners and viewers as well.
Absolutely. And thanks to everyone. We'll see you all next week.
Peace.